Welcome to the Amplified CEO with VC and serial entrepreneur Richard Stroupe.
With today's guest, Juan Carlos Pacheco, attorney, founder, and managing partner at Pacheco Law Firm, and senior associate at Idea Fund Partners.
Good morning.
Good morning, Richard.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
Good to be here. Excited.
Good. Thanks for coming in early today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Originally, you're from Georgia, is that right?
I am, yeah, from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
More specifically, Marietta, Georgia, is like a northwest suburb of Atlanta.
Okay.
Born and raised there. Went in and played soccer for a year up in Nashville at Lipscomb University.
Okay.
And then decided to transfer out and join the Catholic Seminary for the Archdiocese of Atlanta for about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And we didn't have a seminary in Georgia, so I got sent to Louisiana and spent 4 years studying philosophy at St. Joseph Seminary College.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Vatican in Rome?
I have, yeah.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Yeah. Something about walking in the Sistine Chapel and like looking up and
yeah, your neck starts to hurt a little bit from looking all over.
Yeah, but just like the smells of the building itself, it's like it's very interesting. But
yeah,
I know I went 20 plus years ago and did a tour we started in Rome and then went down to Capri,
nice.
Naples, and then came back up into a Lake Como area.
That's a good trip.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to go to Pompeii?
We did Pompeii when we were down
cool.
in South Italy. Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, going through the museums and the whole ruins and walking the streets and seeing how they lived and where the bars were,
all the other stuff.
All the other stuff. Yeah, especially for people who were looking for certain things. It's like, oh, okay, to the left. But yeah, such interesting geography. Yeah,
Definitely.
Italy's a beautiful country.
It sure is.
Yeah, for sure. So you were in the seminary for a while, then you eventually moved to Chapel Hill?
I did, yeah. So I spent the 4 years at St. Joe, or we call it St. Ben's because it's in St. Benedict, Louisiana. It's run by a Benedictine monk, so that's kind of our nickname for it. Spent 4 years there, got my philosophy degree, and then went back to Atlanta we called it a pastoral year. It's essentially an internship year. Worked in a parish church and decided that the Catholic priesthood was not my calling at that time, and ended up taking a job as a director of the UNC Newman Center.
Okay.
Up in Chapel Hill.
Is that the entrepreneurship center or?
No, it's the Catholic Center.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I was a director there for 2 years while I was trying to figure out what was next. I knew I wanted to go back to school. It's hard to get a job as a philosopher these days. And I knew I wanted to go back to school, but I wanted to be an area where innovation was happening, people were thinking, a lot of universities around. And so I went there. After 2 years, I applied to the law school at UNC. Got accepted, and originally it was just the law school. And I was blessed to be able to take a summer internship with the Chief Justice of North Carolina, Chief Justice Newby, and ended up extending that for about another 7 months afterwards. And during that time, North Carolina is one of, I think, 8 states now that has a business court. So these are business cases between two businesses with a cause of action anywhere over $500,000. They have a direct appeal to the Supreme Court. And so I kind of grounded myself in those cases, helping out, kind of being the gatekeeper, providing writing briefs for the Chief Justice. And that really piqued my interest in business. I saw where businesses had gone very wrong and did really bad things and were getting held accountable, but also where businesses were very strategic and were able to do good business and also not be held accountable. They didn't need to be held accountable because they hadn't done anything wrong. And so after that first year, I ended up applying to Keenan Flagler Business School as well at UNC for my MBA.
So you went back to back?
I went back to back, yeah. So UNC offers a dual degree program for the JD MBA. It's a 4-year program.
Total 4 years?
Total 4 years. So instead of 2 at the business and 3 at the law, they combine it all together. The first 2 years are at the law school. The third year is at the business school, and then the fourth year is a hybrid year. So you're bouncing back and forth between the two schools. Wow.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Did you have to do any kind of dissertation or thesis as part of your?
Thankfully not. Thankfully not. No, but we did have concentrations,
Right.
mainly at the business school. At the law school, there's not, concentrations per se, but you can start to pick which classes you want. So I started taking a lot of business law classes, negotiation classes. And at the business school, my focus was entrepreneurship, venture capital, and investments.
Okay. And then having the JD lawyer background kind of helped feed into that.
It did, yeah. It was, the business school was a lot more fun. People got along. They were collaborative, but also too, I always enjoyed the law. Law is in everything that we do, from business to society to family life. And so being able to approach business through that lens, and also law school and the practice of law also gives you a very structured way of thinking, of problem solving as well. At UNC Law, they say, we're teaching you how to solve problems. And a lot of business, especially in entrepreneurship, is about solving problems.
Right. Now, did your background in the Catholic Church, did that help you in your pursuit of your MBA and your law degree?
I like to think so, because you're dealing with people, and you're dealing with the deepest aspects of people's lives. You're working with people who have a vision for their life, and you're helping them achieve that vision in a step-by-step process, helping them get out of holes, solve problems, encouraging them when they're on a certain path, and that's a lot like law, and that's a lot like business as well. And then so getting to I'd say it was like a PhD in people.
Right.
And that's really what I think business is about. I think the law profession should also be. Might not always end up being like that, but I do think it should be about the people. So I like to think so.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And your family's background is at Appalachian State?
App State, yeah. So both my parents graduated from App State. One of my younger brothers, Michael, just graduated from App State.
Okay.
Mentioned earlier that I got to go to 2 out of the 3 national championship games for App State.
With Armani Edwards,
oh yeah,
the quarterback.
Great quarterback.
Yeah. Those were the times.
Yeah.
Well, really, it kind of paved the way for us to move into the Sun Belt in Division I.
It did, yeah. And then on top of that, beating Michigan on the field goal, Corey Lynch, and
Michigan, Texas A&M. It's been a crazy ride there, and we'll see where it goes.
Definitely.
Yeah, obviously UNC. I'd love to have them on the scheduled. Especially now, it would be great to bring Belichick up to Boone.
Yeah, it's looking like you might have a good chance as well. They got smoked this past weekend.
Yeah, they didn't play very well. But it's a new team. New coach brings new recruits, and it's you have to have a couple years of building before you get the process down. But does your family get up to Boone a lot to see games now, or?
We were, especially when my brother was there, going up. We'll see if it continues. Being in Wilmington, it's quite the trek, but it's so beautiful over there too.
Yeah.
So even turn it into a long weekend, going hanging out in the mountains, and then maybe even go for a Black Saturday game.
Yeah.
Those are always fun. I grew up with a lot of guys who went to Georgia Southern.
Oh, right.
So that's always a fun rivalry.
Yeah, that's a great game. Georgia Southern App. Last year when the hurricane came through, of course, nobody expected flooding in the mountains. Right. I own some property up there too, and we have earthquake insurance.
Wow.
Like here, you have to have flood insurance.
Right.
But there in the mountains, like floods, no. Maybe an earthquake here and there because there's fault lines up there, but unbelievable.
And you're a mountaineer as well.
I am. Yep. Graduated in the late 90s. Yeah. Computer information systems. I was a computer science major, but ended up switching.
Okay.
Yeah. I made it halfway through and I'm like, this isn't for me. Like, I like coding, but I don't like coding that much. Like, I like to get my hands in the databases and the network, kind of have a well-rounded appreciation of technology, not just freaking coding.
So you can kind of see the big picture.
Yeah.
Rather than being in the weeds.
Yeah. Here's your specs, code boy. Go to your desk and don't come back until it's done. It's like, that doesn't sound really appealing to me. Like you, I want to work with people.
Yeah.
And understand requirements and then build applications. And, it's kind of fun.
That's neat.
How that turned out. And I ended up moving to Northern Virginia. I had a lot of job offers in Charlotte.
Okay.
And I nearly took one. I had an offer in Texas. I thought about moving there and going to grad school at UT. My dad wanted me to stay closer to home. And he was pushing me to take a job in Charlotte, but I just, I wanted to go to grad school at the time. And I reached out to UNC, NC State, Duke, learned about their MBA programs, and, every one of them said, "Oh, you got to have at least 2 to 3 years of experience before you can apply." And I'm like, well, at my mindset right now, if I don't go back to school and keep my discipline, I'll never get my graduate degree. So I applied to George Washington.
Okay.
Well, George Mason and George Washington.
Nice.
When I, interviewed for work up in Northern Virginia.
Well,
So
what program?
Systems engineering was at Mason.
Okay.
So I started there and I went one semester, and the way their program was designed, because I wanted to get in and out in 2 years, go part-time, work during the day, take classes at night.
Nice.
And Mason, for whatever reason, had a problem with the CIS degree at App State because it's housed in the College of Business. So they treated me like a College of Business major, not a CIS major.
Some would call that innovative.
Right? And they required me to take these 6, elective classes, prerequisites before I could start the program. And it was like discrete math and architecture, like just basic stuff. And I started down the path and I agreed to do it. And then I'm like, you know what, this really doesn't make me happy. Like, I don't want to sit in these classes and waste a year, a year and a half taking prerequisites before I can start the program. So then I applied to the Systems Engineering Management program at George Washington, which basically was in the College of Engineering, but it was sort of like the MBAs for engineers.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was a unique program, and they allowed me to take classes off campus. So they were geared for the working professional. So, I took a lot of classes in Alexandria and Fairfax.
Nice. Old Town Alexandria is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice up there. There's pockets of good areas in Northern Virginia, then not so good areas. But yeah, that's where I decided to go and finish out.
That's neat. And did the master's program have like a specific focus?
I chose systems engineering.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was very similar to my CIS degree, where you got to focus on decisions, systems, and learn, networking and databases. So I kind of like just stayed in my swim lane, I guess you could say. And it was no thesis or anything. It was just classes.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah. But then my doctorate, I later went back and got my doctorate at Purdue.
Okay.
And that was a full thesis dissertation. It took me a year and a half.
Okay. That's the land of the Yinzers. Is it?
Boilermakers. Yeah. Buller up.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story there was my son, when he was searching for his schools, and he finally decided, yep, this is where I want to go. And have you seen the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield?
No.
All right. You got to watch it. It's a classic, but he plays this guy, Thornton Mellon, who is this big real estate guy, New York, uneducated, kind of bootstrap, blue collar kind of guy, right? So he goes through a divorce and he decides to go back to school where his son is, and his son's on the swim team, but I think his son's like a junior or something. And anyway, he starts as a freshman, and it's just a whole calamity of things. It's a comedy. It's funny.
I'm sure his son loved it too.
For a while. Yeah. So I did it as a joke, to him. And he wasn't very happy about it, but eventually he kind of caught onto it. And it was about COVID. It was right when COVID was ever shutting everything down. Yep. So I took 3 classes.
Nice.
That fall, and then one thing led to another, and I just decided to use it as a personal outlet, and just taking 2 classes a semester, just hammered through all the classes and got to the prelims, and decided to write a dissertation on some stuff I was working on for my company.
Neat. What was the dissertation on?
It was about air gap cloud network security breaching. Yeah.
That's way above my head.
Well, not really. It's basically air gap clouds are like think of AWS
Okay.
or Azure.
Yep.
But it's in a air gapped network, disconnected from the internet.
Okay.
Yeah. So the work I was doing, for the government was building clouds inside their own networks.
Wow. That's neat.
So like think of an AWS inside a closed network. And I decided to do research about quantitative research analysis on breaching of air gap clouds.
Wow.
And a lot of research came from Israel, of all places, and China, and the methods and the techniques that they were using to breach these networks. It was very interesting. Microwaves and lasers.
Microwaves.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Glad I don't have a microwave in my house.
When you build these SCIFs, these secured facilities, they put up wire mesh and other things inside the drywall because of those things, and it's just interesting how they can kind of really penetrate walls, and listen to your conversations and pick up things. And, obviously in the research, the insider network issue is the biggest problem we have. Whether people fall out of a line of your mission that you're working in, or you're enticed to give data to somebody else for some other reason. That's a big challenge. So there's the gatekeepers, and then there's people watching the people inside the gate. So it's,
right. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was fun to some degree. It was fun. Well, tell me about your work at your Idea Fund.
Yeah, so Idea Fund, we're one of the oldest early stage technology venture capital funds in the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
We're headquartered in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We've been around for just under 20 years, and we invest in from pre-seed all the way through Series A.
Okay, so you're early stage investment.
Early stage investment, yeah.
Okay,
and we're on our fourth fund.
How much capital have you raised so far?
In the fourth fund?
No, total.
Total. That is a great question. So I joined back last October, so I'm still getting
where was that, Fund 3? Or
I joined Fund 4 still.
Oh, so you're right in 4.
Yeah, so we're in the third year Fund 4. We're shooting for about a $40 to $50 million fund, and we're actively deploying out of it. So we've deployed into about 15 or 16 companies.
Okay.
Again, ranging from pre-seed, very, very early, all the way through Series A, and then we actually have one follow-on and from one of our portcos into a Series B. Exercising our pro rata rights.
So before you joined Idea, so when you finished your work at UNC,
yep,
did you start thinking like, I want to be a venture capitalist, and that's kind of where I want to spend my time? And
so believe it or not, I didn't really know what a venture capitalist was until probably my first or second year of grad school.
Okay.
And then in the third year, I actually co-founded my own startup.
Okay.
In the digital health space, I found a brilliant PhD student at UNC, and we kicked it off that third year, and we went out. We raised some capital. I graduated from both schools. Ended up passing the bar as well, and I did that for about a year. And for about 9 to 10 months, I tried to raise capital from Idea Fund, and could never get them to write me a check, but I did get them to thankfully give me a job.
Well, you must have made a great imprsion.
Yeah, I was definitely persistent.
Right. And we need somebody like this on our team.
It was. I really enjoyed my experience just through those 9-10 months, even interacting with Idea Fund. They have a great reputation. And then actually, as I was transitioning out of my startup, the person whose position I'm in now, he was transitioning out of his position at Idea Fund. And so I reached out directly to Lister Delgado, our GP, and said, hey, would love to come to the other side of the table. And within about a month, I was on the other side of the table. Right.
There's not many of us that have experience on both sides.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
So it definitely helps.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. At least that's what I tell my portcos that I invest in. Like, you're getting a unicorn investor because nobody understands the way we do, right? It's
Exactly.
like as an operator.
Exactly.
what happened to your startup? So you were raising money for that 1 year?
Yeah, so we raised like a friends and family round,
Yeah.
and we ended up just running out of money.
Yeah.
We tried to go back out. It was a very tough raising environment. Had a great team put together, and we just couldn't get the raise, and we ran out of money.
What year was this?
This was 2020, end of 2024.
24.
Yeah, about September, a little over a year ago.
I think a lot of startups fall into that category where it's a really good idea and now they need capital to deploy. And of course they can either choose to use outside capital or their own capital, but at the same time they need income to support their lifestyle, their family, pay the bills, rent, whatever. We were talking about yesterday. Do you know Daniel Summers by chance?
Daniel Summers. It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, you should meet him. Yeah, very interesting founder. Lab Logs.
Okay.
Yeah. He lives around the corner too. I'll send him an email intro for you too. But yeah, raising capital is like the Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Without capital, you can't sustain, run a business, and reach your milestones and your goals. And,
right. Yeah, and it's very challenging too.
Right.
There's a lot of, I think, unspoken rules or just process for how you go about it. And I was just kind of learning on the go. I wish I had the experience I have now as on the other side of the table back when I was trying to raise.
Well, you're a young man. You could always, it wouldn't be the first, to flip back over. So, all right, now that I understand the game.
Right. The itch is always there.
Yeah. Right. So you spent a year there and then you switched over to Idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been at Idea coming up on a year in mid-October.
Okay. Now, is Idea always invested in pre-seed, seed, and A? Is that kind of where their sweet spot's always been?
Yeah, it's
occasional B or whatever.
Yeah, it's always been the sweet spot, and really the sweet spot is Series Seed. And so we'll dip down every once in a while into pre-seed, and then typically a Series A will be a follow-on check from one of the companies we've already invested in, and then funds 1 through 3 we were B2B SaaS only with no geographic focus.
Okay.
So we have investments really all over the country. We have one in Israel as well, a few in Canada. And then in Fund 4, we switched that up a little bit. We ended up narrowing down our geographic focus from the area of Atlanta to Baltimore. And because we narrowed down our geographic focus, we opened up to become general tech. So we have, of our 16 portfolio companies, we're all over the board.
Okay.
We have one of our new investments is a hybrid electric airline manufacturer based out of Virginia. We have a consumer mobile company that's set to launch in September. We have our newest and probably one of the one I'm most excited about is located right here in Wilmington, SkillMaker, a LearnOps platform. We have fintech, health tech. So we're all over the board. In this fund, but specifically focused on this geography. What
are some of the green flags that you find attractive in startups? Because typically fund managers, to reduce risk for their LPs and to return max capital, they focus in certain areas. Obviously it's typically the background of the management team or the fund itself, but it seems like you're kind of all over. Like what exactly, are those green flags that you look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in general, it's two things. One is exceptional founders, and that can really, look very different. Whether it's their professional background, they really have shown and developed a particular expertise in an industry that's allowed them to come to an insight and help them start this company. It could be a founder who has, overcome a lot of things throughout their life that shows, they have an exceptional character, that they're going to be able to overcome the hurdles, the challenges of entrepreneurship because it's very difficult. Or they're exceptionally well at building a team around them. They're extremely self-aware. They know where their blind spots are, and so they have that ability to reflect on themselves to know who they want to surround themselves with.
Okay.
And then the second thing is innovative or disruptive ideas. We're looking for ideas that go against the status quo, that are going to completely disrupt an industry, the set players, and really create a new way of doing something, a new way of applying a technology, and even a new way of a particular type of business model.
And how do you source your deals? Where do you, I mean, do people submit their information to you and their pitch decks, or do you connect with other local groups around, you said between Atlanta and Baltimore?
Yeah. So in funds 1 through 3, we were, I would say, primarily inbound. We've been pretty blessed to be able to invest with over 150 different firms, develop a good relationships with many of them, and our LPs as well, or our own investors will send us companies to look at. In Fund 3, we kind of switched that a bit to really focus on our outbound model. And we do that primarily through our venture fellowship. And so we recruit as many venture fellows as possible. Think of them as like scouts. Many of them are MBA students or industry professionals who are wanting to break into venture capital. And we send them out to find as many companies as possible. Our goal is to know every single company that will ever start in the region that we're looking at, ideally before they're actually fundraising,
right?
So that we can develop a relationship with them, really get to know them. We don't have to rush through the diligence process,
right?
Minimize the mistakes we're going to make in investing. And so really that outbound process is something that has really changed in Fund 4. The majority, I'd say at least half of our current investments have been outbound so far, and we're hoping to just see that continue to grow.
Right. Do you have any relationships or communications with the universities? Because I knew like a lot of them have these internal pitch competitions, and they call it like, when I was at Georgetown, they always, every year, these classes had their own little competition. Even my class I taught at George Washington, the end result, week 12 was, you're going to pitch your idea. You go through the process of creating your business model, and then you go through the process of doing competitive analysis, and then you do your pitch deck, and then you do your pro formas, and then I bring in real VCs at the time, and you pitch them, and you get feedback, and it was a good lesson learned for the students. But do you have that relationship at the university level?
We do. So there's, especially in the Triangle, you have incredible universities there, from Duke, UNC, NC State, NCCU, really just great universities. Three of our staff members are UNC grads, so we love to keep leaning in that. Yeah. The other one is from Duke, so we're a firm divided between Duke and UNC. And then there's a really great event that started at UNC, but it is all over the country now. It's called Venture Capital Investment Competition. And it's an opportunity for the students in the programs to actually play the role of a VC. They bring in outside startups that are typically local to each area.
Right.
They pitch them. The students will decide who they're going to invest in at what terms. And so those are great opportunities for us as well. We also have like Innovate Carolina, which is they're essentially somewhat of an incubator. They have Launch Chapel Hill attached to them. And then NC Idea as well. They give out different grants they do the micro grants, which are very, very early companies. Right. They do seed grants. And so we use that as a pipeline development process. And then because we don't do many investments, if any, really actually in the biologic space, UNC is very heavy in the life sciences. That kind of puts a challenge there.
Right.
But we definitely like to work with the university students. I'll say though that one of the challenges with many university startups is, which is a great thing as well, is they're very focused on getting grants, SBIR grants, grants for starting, and we kind of say that becomes a drug, where they focus
free
on
money.
Free money, getting grant, which is great. It's non-dilutive, helps you develop your research, helps you get going, but companies can get dependent on that. University students can get dependent on those grants, and they forget that they have to build a revenue generating company.
Right.
That'll self-sustain.
Oh yeah, that's the reason we're here.
Right.
Now you mentioned one of the things you look for is founder grit and determination and resilience. And because it's very hard to take a business from cradle to grave.
Yeah.
And run through those cycles. And obviously kids coming out of college have zero experience. So we tend to kind of look for those grizzled veteran, people who maybe have built and sold before, or maybe been in the military. Do you have any founders? We'll talk about SkillMaker in a second, but I mean, that's a good example. But are most of your founders kind of fit that form where they have that type of resilience and experience?
There's definitely some of them.
Yeah.
I would say the younger entrepreneurs, they have and I probably did myself when I was doing my start, some type of a blissful ignorance where they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And so they just go steam full ahead. And they're running with the challenges. They're not afraid to stop. They just keep going. And they're also just brilliant. We're living in this time of, advancing technology that is moving so fast.
Right.
And so they're able to learn it and pick it up so fast as well.
Yeah.
But like you said, we do have some portfolio founders that are repeat founders, some that have been previous portfolio companies for us, and they go out and they start a new company. And so that for us, it de-risked it a little bit because we've seen how they start companies, we see how they recruit teams, how they build their companies, and ideally how they exit those companies as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I've recently closed my last 3 investments, minus SkillMaker. They were all PhD graduates. So their dissertations was the technology that they used to launch their business. And obviously they didn't have experience in the community, but they did academic research and was able to file a provisional patent on the technology. And then they get validation either through, like you mentioned, SBIR grants or working with the government, NASA. These are all space related technologies, but it's very risky working with early stage. So typically what I do is first thing I ask is, all right, tell me about your background. What network do you have? Who's on your advisory board? What's your technology? And do you have a patent? It's like, if they don't say yes across the board, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pass. It's like, nice to know you. It's very hard to find a very niche business model that's sticky, that it's unserved, something that you can innovate, like you mentioned, and then create a patent on top of that to kind of extract even additional unique value.
Right. So. And I do think traditionally the traditional PhD path has been to go straight into academia. But I'm seeing a lot of PhD students wanting to now jump over to the commercial side to take that and actually see their years, because these PhD students work for years and years, and they want to see it actually affect the world in a good way and see it come to life. And I think we're also starting to see the states come and try and invest and create companies from the. So
tell me, I don't understand, the state of North Carolina is an investor with you, and you also mentioned Virginia too?
That's correct.
How does that work?
Yeah, so it's called SSBCI funding. Don't ask me to say what the acronym stands for, but it was originally funds that came from the federal government, and they passed through the states, and the state picked, I think in North Carolina it was 10 different funds. I'm not exactly sure in Virginia how many funds. And so that capital is matching capital that has to be specifically invested in each state, essentially to
entice companies in that state.
Yeah, companies in that state.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be university research,
right?
But it does have to be from that state. And so they track everything from job creation, follow-on capital. And so it's pretty strict guidelines for the receiving capital from the state.
And it's 50 cents per dollar. Is that right?
Right now in North Carolina, and then in Virginia, it's about $1 for dollar.
Okay. And is there a limit on how much they can invest per fund?
It depends on each fund. So depending on how much you raise, and then just depending on the fund itself.
Yeah. I think it's phenomenal. States, have funding, obviously the federal government and even the state and local governments should, enhance entrepreneurship and startup companies, not only for the tax generation of the tax base, but also just for jobs and job growth and overall economic development. I talk to economic people here all the time. It's here in Topsail, Wilmington area, it's very heavily, levered onto the hospitality, the seasonal vacationers that come in the summer. And then the off season, there's not a whole lot going on, and then you talk to these mom and pop businesses that all feed off of the seasonal vacationers. You got the restaurants, you got the breweries, you've got, service providers, like beach chairs and umbrellas and photography and property management. It would be nice to have some other industry in this area that can kind of service year round, and what I found, like in New York, obviously there's fintech, with the markets and the financial, business. And in DC, it's government, right, and government contractors. But, North Carolina, especially Eastern North Carolina, has a very heavy military exposure. And I'm talking to some people now about some ideas on how to bring back some of that startup capital here, like defense tech type businesses, not the Blackwaters of the world, who was actually headquartered in North Carolina. But like manufacturing,
right,
like drones and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's a great place to live and to start a company too.
I think so. Yeah.
Lower cost of living as well than many of the traditional places like New York, DC.
Yeah.
And you got the beach, nice people.
Right. So why Baltimore through Atlanta? Why didn't you go up to Boston? Because I know Boston has a big hub, and Columbus, Ohio, out in Midwest, we're starting to see some traction out there. But why just the East Coast corridor?
Yeah. So really for two reasons. One, COVID. COVID led to a really big talent migration. Coming from traditional areas of California, New York, down into the mid-Atlantic Southeast. So that area, Baltimore to Atlanta. And it brought with it more capital, brought with it people who have experience in the startup space, people who are high up executives and various technology industries. So we saw a lot of talent migration coming down to the area.
Okay.
And then the second thing, which I'm most excited about, is we ran data on the ratio between active early stage technology funds and the amount of unicorns. And when you looked at the traditional areas of Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, it was about 1-to-1. Silicon Valley is actually a little bit less than 1-to-1. Obviously, there's a ton more startups, but there's a ton more competition as well for the investors to get access to those deals. And when we looked at this area, it was actually 4-to-1. Forced unicorn startups to active early stage venture capital funds. And we defined active as making 2 investments per year for the past 5 years. So seeing those two dynamics coming together with really good talent, really a lack of access to capital for a lot of startups in this area, and then not much competition as well in the venture side. We think that in Fund 4, we can get hopefully minimum 1, but at least 2, 3 of these unicorns that are coming up in this region.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I've had the fortunate opportunity to have a couple. One played really well, one didn't. So I'm just curious, which areas are you looking for unicorns? Like what industries?
Yeah, really especially Fund 4, we're all over the place.
Yeah. Are you focused on AI right now, since that's kind of a hot market? Or
some AI? I think I would say probably every company we've invested is at least, they might not be an AI first company, but they're using AI in some way.
Right.
Our only company we've invested so far in Virginia is a hybrid electric airline manufacturer, which is very different than what we've looked at in the past. But they have a great team. They're actually university students that came out of Georgia Tech, who did different internships and projects with NASA. They've got a great advisory board, and it's dual use tech. So they have great contract with the DoD, but also too, they're looking at the regional airline mobility. So anything within 300 to 500 miles that most people are typically driving for right now, they'll be able to provide that access with a quick flight.
Okay. So they're actually manufacturing their own airplanes?
Yeah, they're doing it they say they want to be the next Boeing. And so if they hit it out of the park.
SpaceX said the same thing, and they all laughed at them back in the day, and now look at them.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see the technology they're doing.
Exactly. And it's smart passionate founders, and they're building a really great team around them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited for them. But in terms of AI, like I almost think if you're not using AI in some way today,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get passed up by someone who is using AI.
A lot of people tell me that all the time, like, oh my God, AI is going to replace people. Yes, AI is augmenting labor categories today
Right.
that are reducing the workload requirements today,
Mm-hmm.
but the workload requirements will increase in the future because that's what they do. You know, they
Right.
change, they evolve, just like we are, right? And if you're an engineer, you need to learn AI,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and how AI can help your job and enhance it and make it better versus just putting the Heisman up and saying, I don't want to talk about AI. You know, I'm a human. I can do my job better than they can. It's like, well, you can, but it would be so much better if you had AI
Right.
tools with you.
Yeah, to let you focus on the things that really need a human involvement.
I think you're always going to have a human in the loop
Mm-hmm.
to some degree because you can't trust AI.
Right.
Because even looking at ChatGPT and, and Gronk and some of the other, Anthropic tools that people use to generate code, even the tool Harvey. Have you heard about this?
I have not, no.
Are you familiar with the show Suits?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Harvey is like one of the main characters. Somebody created, I guess it's an LLM where they loaded a bunch of legal documentation and just case files and things, and they call it Harvey from the guy. And you can subscribe to Harvey and think of it like he's your little personal lawyer. And then just go in there and start asking questions and generating documents. I think those type of professions, yes.
Mm-hmm.
AI is going to be really great. Even government contracting. I know there's a lot of government contractors now are generating proposals.
Yeah.
Not RFPs, but like, responses to RFPs for contracts using LLMs. They'll stuff all their old, proposals up into this computer system and then start asking questions and then generates,
Right.
proposal data. It makes it a lot easier for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So SkillMaker, tell me about that one.
Yeah, I'm very excited about
And
SkillMaker.
I'm an investor, obviously. So
Yeah.
I did see your term sheet before we signed it.
Yeah. Hopefully you're happy with it.
It was fine.
Yeah.
We had a few questions.
Yeah. No, we're extremely excited about SkillMaker. I think again we're early stage investors, so one of the first things and most important things for us is the team.
Mm.
And the founder of SkillMaker, Robin Cowie, is brilliant.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he?
He's great. For the listeners, if you've ever seen the Blair Witch Project, he's one of the producers of that movie. And this is where I think Idea Fund, we look at innovative founders.
Mm.
Robin is not your typical tech startup founder.
Right.
He's a creative.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at the world, he looks at problems, he looks at technology like a creative, like a completely different
Well, it's like
way.
a Steve Jobs type person.
Yeah. And I think traditional venture capital investors, if they don't appreciate that and they're looking for the typical tech startup founder, they're going to overlook him. And I think many did.
Right.
And I think they're going to regret it later on. But he brings a completely different way of viewing things. And he's also extremely self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
He knows where his faults are. He's very hungry to learn and to get better and to receive coaching. And he's built a fantastic team around him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's solving a massive problem.
Right.
My mom's side of the family, my mom was actually the first and only person in her family to go to college. And so my she's one of 9. So the rest of them, all 8 of them are contractors and building houses and the trades.
Right.
And so for me, it stuck very, very kind of near to home. It's often an overlooked population that has been, doing things.
Mm-hmm.
SkillMaker for them, people, building cars and auto mechanics have been doing this training for the same way for basically forever. And he's completely disrupting the industry. He's taken it from 2 years to I think 26 days now to bring an auto mechanic up to competency.
Right.
And then on top of that, he has a great contract with Napa, which is some nice early validation.
Yeah.
And so we're extremely excited.
I think your comment about how some VCs didn't see the true vision and how he can execute. It's a good example of where I think our operating backgrounds can apply versus a venture capitalist who is not an operator, who's just looking at spreadsheets and pro formas and trying to assume certain things. Like I remember talking to one group, and I specifically asked them, are you going to invest in SkillMaker? Because they knew I already did. I was really early. I think myself and Leland Winstead were the first two that really jumped in. They told me, it's a fascinating technology, but it has a really heavy uplift. And I'm like, tell me about that. Like educate me, like I'm playing stupid a little bit. Like, oh really? Huh? Tell me about that. They're like, well, it's a novel idea. It's there's a lot of cost in developing that kind of technology, and then it can't really scale. And, it's very unique and customized to one area and one region. And they're doing work with Napa and they're doing this accelerator. And, obviously Napa's not going to let their competitors use it. And I'm like, okay, all right. And knowing the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, none of that's true. But it's like, well, do you understand the coding side and how it works and how we can refactor this and, build a platform and like, no, it's just, you're talking years and years of development. I'm thinking, no, man, like maybe 8 months.
Right.
So it's like, I don't see it being that too much of a heavy lift. But I think it just comes from knowing, like, you've been in the driver's seat, you know how to run a business. And like you mentioned, if you surround yourself with really good people who've been there, done that, it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier to facilitate, your intended objective. So
and so you were one, like you said, you were one of the first to jump in the boat. What got you excited about SkillMaker to make? Because that's pretty scary being the first one in.
Yeah, well, honestly, talking to Robin, he's very charming.
Yeah.
I listened to his story. I was very fascinated with his background with Blair Witch and, his industry ties, and working at Madden football and having that experience and exposure. So he's been in film, he's been in gaming, he's been in some really interesting industries. And now he's trying to kind of compound all that experience into this technology. And he already had Napa. So he had a tier 1 customer. And at the time, the parent company was going to make an investment, and now we see it's turning into something a little bit different. But at the time, the way things were laid out, it was very exciting, and I thought it was going to be, something that's like, oh my God, I better jump on this really quick, and it didn't turn out as fast as I want, and there's still a lot of pieces in between.
Right.
And that's another lesson when you're making investments is, you may tell me it could take 6 months, but it's going to take 12. It's like, people go on vacation, things happen.
Right.
You may not get all the money you need at the time. There's always delays. But that's the beauty of the model is kind of preparing for those adjustments and pivoting hard. Right. Yeah. So, but no, I'm happy I'm an investor and, cheering for Robin, and his team, and I'm on the calls every week and with you. So we're every other week now. So yeah. So, I mean, I hope the best for the group. So it's going to be good.
And they oversubscribed by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
Yeah. Now he just has to execute.
Yep. Exactly. Now
we can sit back and like, okay. I know. Well, any other investments that you've recently closed that you're pretty excited about?
We've closed a few. We've actually, this summer we closed four investments, and 3 of them were pre-seed, which I was pretty excited about because we hadn't done a pre-seed investment in a while. Mm-hmm. 2 are still in stealth. So I can't necessarily talk too much about them.
Right.
One's using AI in the human resource side. Mm. And then the other is more in the nonprofit side, which is ironic because venture capital, but there's definitely money to be made in the nonprofit space.
Absolutely.
Don't let anyone tell you differently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other one is a consumer mobile company. They're launching September 16th, I believe.
Okay.
And It's led by a former Democratic candidate for president.
Okay.
And has a very unique twist on his view for consumer mobile. And we're very excited about it. He's going to get some nice press releases coming out.
That's great.
Similar to like the Mint Mobile, but with more of like a fintech integrated within it.
Okay.
So we're hoping it goes as well as Mint Mobile.
That's
as well.
wonderful. Yeah. Now, are those North Carolina, Virginia-based companies, or?
So the consumer mobile is the only one that's actually not.
Yeah.
And so the other ones are all North Carolina.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is they're called Tidal Flight out of Virginia. And we're very excited for them. They were our first one in Virginia. We're actively sourcing companies right now in Virginia because they're the only one, and we've got capital to deploy in Virginia. And so we're just trying to get acquainted with, the entire ecosystem there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different cities.
Oh yeah. Do you know Matt Gittleman by chance?
I don't.
Okay. He worked with me at Blue Venture Investors, and now he works for a guy by the name of Jim Hunt. But he runs a group called VC and DC.
VC and DC.
Yeah, and they have meetings once a month, typically in Arlington or downtown, where all the local family offices and VCs get together.
Nice.
Drink beer and talk about deal flow.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I'll connect you with him, and maybe we can start having you come up to DC.
Yeah, that'd be a great time.
Yeah, I've been to one meeting, and I obviously come down here a lot, so I haven't been to too many others. And there's several groups that are pretty active in the DC market that are trying to be more proactive on deal flow.
Nice.
I'm an investor in Blue Venture Investors, like a limited partner.
Yep.
And they meet twice a month, and they get a bunch of deal flow. And mostly it's cybersecurity. Because from the government, there's a lot of cyber type stuff.
Right.
And, we've seen several technologies that pivot out of the government, because typically you build something from the government, it's useful, it's great, they're using it. But it would be so much awesome if we could use it in commercial.
Yeah.
And by the time they get approval to do that, there's probably 4 or 5 versions of the same thing.
Right.
So I've invested in a few cyber companies, and they've done pretty well. But now we're seeing a lot more than just cyber happening in the DC market.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about that you're seeing?
Defense tech. I'm really excited about that, and trying to find, the future companies that are going to disrupt the government defense technology market. Like Anduril, for example. I wish I could invest in Anduril.
Yeah.
I was able to get in SpaceX, and I would actually trade SpaceX shares for Anduril shares if anybody has any. But Anduril's doing some really cool stuff. And but there's a lot of companies out there that you'll never hear about that write really cool technology that the government will use or contract, or another contractor like Boeing or Leidos or General Dynamics will use as a portfolio company, and their technology gets through the government. So it's interesting.
Is that what exits typically look like for defense tech companies? Is an acquisition from like a Boeing or?
Typically, yeah. From a product company, services are different. Because I created and sold 2 service companies. Up there. My first one I launched in 2001 and sold in 2009. Then we were started out doing Oracle database development and administration. And eventually I pivoted to software development and I got into open source. This is where this was back in, I want to say 2005, 6, and the government was still catching up with modern, architecture, and they had a lot of client server, because mainframes when I first started, then they all went to client server, like Java, JavaScript. And then, obviously we started building our own little clouds with clustering, and, we got really deep into that technology and started to develop open source architecture with Ruby on Rails and some other technologies, and it just blew their socks off. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is so great, So we started to basically take over all these other software shops with this architecture.
Yeah.
And between 2005 and 2009, our company doubled in size, and there were some things happening, both internal and external, that allowed me to seek an exit. So I sold it in 2009, and it was great timing. And then that's where I worked for the acquirer for a couple years, and then joined Blue Venture.
Okay.
And started working at Georgetown and George Washington universities, and getting really connected to the MBA students in the startup community and
Neat.
learning, the different models and the other side of the table, as you mentioned. So, but then I started my second company in 12, and
Okay.
it was focused on Amazon and air gap clouds.
Okay, neat. Can you go for round 3?
I don't think round 3 is in the cards. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it, but it'd have to be something unique and different. I think I've now had a time on the investor side, and I think it's a lot of fun.
It is.
And you're not tied to one customer base, one organization, one culture. I've got, a portfolio now of 5 companies under Cape Fear Ventures.
Yeah.
And even before Cape Fear, I had maybe 12. And it's just great that you can pop in at any time and spend a week or two immersed in their technology and what they're doing, and you try to help them, and then you bounce to somebody else. And I think it keeps you fresh and exciting, and your mind engaged and learning about new technology. And then it's like, oh, maybe you can talk to this guy, and try to connect the dots and try to create value through mutual introductions.
Yeah. And so when did you start Cape Fear Ventures?
I've been investing in technology since 2010. My first investment was a company called TroopSwap. And eventually they pivoted into ID.me. It was Groupon for the military.
Okay.
And you mentioned one of the green flags was founders. Well, this guy, I was at Blue Venture maybe 3 months, and this guy, Blake Hall, comes in and he pitches Blue Venture, him and his partner, Matt, at the time. And I was blown away, not just the technology. It's like, oh, it's just Groupon for the military, right? And this is a great example of how some of these investors think. But I was really taken away with Blake's leadership capability, his military background, the fact that he led some patrols in Iraq, and some of the experiences that he had, and how he overcome adversity and really navigated some dangerous situations in a very effective and beautiful way. And I'm like, I'm in. This is my first investment. I'm in.
Yeah.
And some of the older guys were like, oh, Groupon. It's just coupons. I don't understand. I said, but for the military, like he's focused on just the military, active and reserve and veterans. I think it's a good idea. We should give these guys some breaks. Let's give them some coupons. Groupon, so they just get the bias in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And eventually it was a deal, but like the way the Blue Venture worked was we had 15 partners at the time, and we had to have 10 to commit capital to make it work. And it's like super angels.
Yeah.
You could throw in 10K or you can throw in 5K, to become an investor, but it all gets pulled up into one LLC. And my first investment with Blake at the time was $75K. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, I really believe in him. I believe in Matt. I think this is a great idea. And if it doesn't work out, I'm sure he'll figure something out. Like, that's just what he does, know? And I was the lead investor. I think we put in a total of it was 125.
Okay.
So our total investment was like 400 and something of that round, just Blue Venture. And obviously I was more than 25% of the first one. And then within 12 months, they came back and said, oh, we needed a bridge to the A. It was all pre-seed stuff. And the valuation was $7.5 million.
Wow.
So I put in another $75K as a pro rata. And so my total investment was like over $200K at the time. It was like $225. And at that point, it just started taking off, and then they ended up pivoting into authentication because they were able to get access into the database systems, the DoD. They were the only company.
That's nice.
And then eventually they pivoted into ID.me authentication, and now they're working with IRS. They're working with all these contracts, and they're doing fraud protection, and they're still doing deals for military. And if you're an active military person, if you go to ID.me, you can get an account and you can get some really good deals. No, it's great. And now they're a unicorn.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So their last round, they closed at 1.5 or 1.8 billion.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're going to go IPO, in the next couple of years. They're making their rounds, but I'm so happy for that team. I mean, because that's a true grassroots effort that pivoted, changed their business model, still used the underlying, grit and determination, and then ended up taking their technology, going a different route, and just exploding it. And it's just been wonderful.
That's where you see too the importance of grit, to be able to have the courage to pivot.
Yeah.
And go and almost start over.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because that was my first one. And now everything that comes after that is either going to be major disappointment. So I've had to lower my expectations. Like, oh my God, is all of them like this? This is great. But I've had to learn. I've lost deals, honestly, but I try to use those green flags, those markers for success. And when I'm talking to founders or looking at their technology or looking at their industries, try to apply those, metrics to figure it out. So going back to your question, Cape Fear, I started the Cape Fear brand, I believe it was in 22.
Okay.
And using it as a moniker for future, because I think my plan is to raise a fund at some point, maybe next year or year after. I just have to figure out some personal things on my side in order to really give it my 110%.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of real estate development.
Okay.
And now I'm starting to unwind some of that and putting it in different modes where I was an operator and now maybe sell it to seller financing, and now I'm a financier. Still attracting cash flow. But I use the cash flow from the real estate to help propel the venture capital side. So I run it kind of like as a family office where, just take different pockets of money and put it to work.
That's neat. And will it be focused? I know you said you haven't launched it yet. Or the fund, would you like it to focus on North Carolina or particular type of industry?
Well, my original plan was to move here full time. That's why I was able to jump on Cape Fear Ventures. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's available.
Yeah.
Like, the LLC.
Great name.
It's like, and it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the future holds for me. I've put a lot of capital to work here. I've invested in Hanify, which is, we talked about the back end workflow automation system sitting on Salesforce, doing a lot of AI analytics. They're doing extremely well. They're based here in Wilmington, learning about, SkillMaker, which is based here in North Carolina. I'm every space company. I like space. My son turned me on to space a long time ago. So being on the cap table for SpaceX has allowed me to have conversations I probably shouldn't have with people around the world, in space agencies in Europe. I had a guy fly from Germany who was developing some innovative technology for reentry, for cargo deployments, which I just kind of wrote about on LinkedIn. But so every country has their own objectives on how they're going to utilize space, outer space, for logistics, human transport, and security. And I've been really focused in that area. And I just was in Colorado a couple of weeks ago, meeting with one of my companies who moved to Denver, who moved his headquarters there. I'm like, why not North Carolina? Come on, it's really cool, access to talent. You have, really cool schools there, and the climate's great. And he says, well, I just had this conversation with another investor. He says, when you're working in space, there's only 3 areas you can move to right now. It's either Colorado, Texas, or California.
Yeah. Maybe Alabama now.
Maybe Alabama after yesterday, for sure. But no, that's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe we should start traveling to Huntsville. But that's where all the concentration is, as far as the investment capital and the customer base, and a lot of the investors want their companies to be in their backyard for control. I lost one I sold out of one that moved to Ohio.
Okay.
We were pre-seed, and they got an A round from Drive Capital, which was based out of Columbus.
Mhm.
And they ended up moving from Maryland to Columbus, and we sold out just because, it's
Wants
a good,
to go to Ohio.
yeah. Who wants to live in Ohio? No, nothing wrong with Ohio. I make fun of them, but no, it's just risk awareness, and trying to maintain your reach to the company. And
I see. And so when you invest, you take a pretty active role in the companies?
yeah, I don't do a spray and pray model.
Mhm.
Typically my check size ranges from 50K to 500K. And like, if I really, really, really love the technology, I'll go deep early. But typically I'll either ask for a board seat or board advisor.
Yep.
And really it kind of matches with the personality with the founder. Like, are they coachable? Can I get along with them? And do our backgrounds align? And can I actually be helpful? Like, I'll know, like, I've had some really good meetings with bioscience companies, really cool technology about healthcare and automating healthcare and doing AI in healthcare. Healthcare scares the heck out of me. Like, I don't understand it, and I just stay away from it. Like, I can't be effective for you. Like, I don't know people in that industry. I can't open doors or make connections. If I feel confident that I can actually not only be an investor, but be like smart, active money, where I can actually help the company grow, then I'm all in.
That's
and
great.
And I went big with Ohanify because I understood the model very well. I understood their backgrounds in their sector, and was able to kind of deliver value from
That's
day
great.
one. So
Sure, your founders really appreciate you.
I hope they do. At least they tell me they do.
Yeah.
But that's really what I think the difference is. When you're an operator investor, you bring your experience and almost advisory, counsel. And to me, that's more than capital. That's friendship. That's, when you're having somebody as a co-pilot, you're like, no, this is your company. It's your baby. I understand. I'm just here to help you and guide and let you know what I think and what you should do. If I had one of those people like helping me grow my business, I probably would have been, $500 million, $1 billion revenue company, you know? But at the time, getting past that $10 million mark was a struggle. But if you had, and I think a lot of people, they see these startup companies raising money and starting at 7 million, 10 million, 100 million valuation. It's like, how in the heck did they get 100 million valuation? Like, because their investors make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's really all about the right investor that you choose.
Yeah.
So I don't waste a lot of time early. Like, I'll meet with them. I'll learn about their background, their technology. And within the first 30 minutes, an hour, like, if you can be helpful or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been interesting, but I hope to bring more companies into North Carolina. I hope that we can create more economic development here.
Yeah.
With defense tech, with aerospace, other technologies. I know fintech with Live Oak,
right,
and Encino here in Wilmington has been a huge anchor for the companies like Ohanify, and now SkillMaker, who's bringing its own unique experience. There's a lot of great people that live in this area.
Yeah, there sure are.
And a lot of them, like Scott Moody, for example, he lives in Wrightsville Beach.
Yep. And
he sold his business to Apple. Great experience.
Yeah.
You have some really good people. It's just they may have reached a point in their life where, you know what, I'm done. It's like, I don't want to mess with anybody. But I know if they're like us, they have that little scratch in the back of their mind thinking, oh man, I could sit here all day, but I really want to be active and help others and just, be part of the win, because it's really fun.
And I think it actually takes people like that to give back to companies and bring that experience of scaling to massive levels, because those experiences are far and few between.
Right.
And to be able to have, people like yourself, people like Scott in this area to mentor companies to grow.
Right.
Really, I think can really make a huge difference.
Yeah. 'Cause like you mentioned, the the quality of life here is really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, obviously, I've lived in Atlanta for a while. It's commuting in and out of Atlanta every day is not for the faint of heart. In DC, the traffic and now the data centers, I mean, it's disruptive. And here, you know, you've got the beach and the coastal environment, and the people are great, and the traffic's not very bad. And I mean, it's got its, you know, ebbs and flows like every other spot, especially in the summertime. But, and you got access to talent. Like there's some really cool people here.
There are.
A lot of smart folks at UNC Wilmington, and obviously NC State and East Carolina, Duke, App State. I mean, here just in North Carolina, but then you've got remote capabilities where people can live here and work wherever they want.
Right.
You know, so I think it opens the door, and hopefully we can motivate young entrepreneurs to kind of think that way, to set up shop here. And especially from a VC point of view, if you're looking for burn optimization, I'd rather put money to work here,
right?
Because the cost of living is much cheaper.
Yeah, it's a lot of the coast here is a lot cheaper than the coast on the west side.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just funding payroll.
Yeah.
And I've been in several situations where they'll do rounds just to fund payroll, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not funding payroll. I fund growth. It's like, if you're not converting growth, then I don't want to be an investor.
Right.
So what other exciting adventures are you working on these days?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We're closing our fundraising at the end of this year for Idea Fund, which I think everyone at the fund is excited to no longer have to worry about fundraising, at least for this fund.
Yeah.
And just starting to work with some of the early stage companies we've invested in this summer. I'm excited to, again, go back to SkillMaker, see their growth, see their launch late next spring, and continue to look for companies. We're shooting for a portfolio for Fund 4 of about 20 to 30. So we've got about 10 to 15 companies left to find, that's my favorite part is meeting and sourcing and getting to learn about brilliant founders and very exciting tech.
Yeah. We talked about the green flags.
Yep.
And what you look for. What are the red flags that kind of turn you off and say, you know what, this isn't for us?
Yeah, if you're a jerk, that's a very quick red flag. Like if you're just not a kind person, arrogant, for me, that's because it's a partnership when you invest. And so that is one that I think gets crossed off.
So even if the technology is super great and it's awesome and innovative, but that founder is just not
for
clicking.
me, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze.
Okay.
And then I think if a founder doesn't know their numbers, even if they, especially early stage, we know numbers change, projections definitely change. But if you're not able to at least speak with some intelligence on the numbers you have, revenue, burn rate, how you're going to use the capital, how you arrived at your valuation. You mentioned like $100 million valuations. There's some that come in with $100 million valuation with no investors and with really no thought process behind it. So that's a huge flag is just not knowing your numbers. Because if you don't have responsibility with your numbers before we invest, chances are after we invest, you also, won't have the responsibility with your numbers. And then you have our money. And so it's a bit of a concern there. So
out of, let's say, out of every 10 pitches you see, how many of those have red flags?
I would say most of them. And I wouldn't say that a red flag is we completely throw them away and disregard them. Because especially in the early stage, you're still figuring it out. So there's definitely risk, but it's how are you mitigating those red flags? Right. And I think self-awareness, knowing what your red flags are, knowing where your gaps are is probably just as important as your green flags. Yeah. So that's very important. And then whenever we ask a company about their competition and they say we have no competition, that's definitely a red flag because competition is typically a good thing. It shows that there's market there. How are you learning from your customer, from your competition? What do you do better? What are they doing better so that you can compete better? I'm a athlete, so I like to think about sports. So if you're going up in a tournament against a few teams and you go out and you scout those teams and you say they're strong in XYZ. We have XYZ and this, challenge. So we're going to adapt a little bit to beat them because it's a competition. There are winners and there are losers in business. And our hope is that you're going to be a winner, and you have to know where your red flags are and where your competition is as well.
Do you typically lead on investments, or do you kind of come in behind a lead? Because I know some fund shops, when they're doing their due diligence, especially not just for the technology and business, but like you said, the personnel and the founder, they lean on other groups to kind of do some of that as well and say, oh, what did you think about him? Oh my God, did you talk about this? Well, there he goes. Oh yeah, what do you think? Do you talk to other funds, and do you all kind of work together on trying to tackle the same thing together? Or?
Yeah, we definitely talk to different funds with a caution of groupthink, because there are some times when everyone's saying no, and so you get scared and you might not invest when you really should, and vice versa. Everyone's going in to invest and maybe you shouldn't, and you invest and you end up losing your capital. So yeah, we talk with other funds, but we also have a pretty deep diligence process that we do. We do lead, we do follow on as well. Our typical first check size is between $250,000 and $500,000.
Okay.
And then the way we're building this fund is based on performance. About a third of the companies that we invest in with the first check, they'll get a secondary check of about $1 million. And then about a third of that third will get a secondary follow-on check of about $1.5 to $2 million.
Yeah, that's considerable size capital, especially for young companies.
Yeah. Those typically come at like the Series A later on.
Do you try to take a certain percentage of the company when you're making investments? Because I know some funds look at percent ownership when they're making investments.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's more so about the money we're putting in. The only time that I guess really matters is pro rata rights, so that we can continue investing and maximize our investment.
So what advice would you give to founders and entrepreneurs that are looking for capital, but not sure if they should bring in outside capital, and trying to work that next step of expansion and growth?
Yeah, I think one is develop relationships before you need money. Reach out when you're first starting, or if you're not raising, reach out and research the investors as well. Create your top list of the investors that you would love to have as partners, and then get to know them. Reach out, introduce yourself, say, hey, I'm not funding, but I would love to talk with you about my company. Give them KPIs for the quarter. Hey, my goal for this quarter is to hit 100,000 in revenue and to get 2 new customers, and then check back in after that quarter. Follow up and say, hey, we went out we shot for 100K, we hit 90K, but we learned this, and we're going to do this in quarter 2. And so you show how you're, being diligent, how you're working on a company, how they can start to really build that trust, so that they can see this person is very intentional. I think as well, becoming self-aware. I think as a founder, one, it can be extremely lonely, but you can also get blinders on because you're so focused on what you're doing, and working on becoming self-aware allows you to see the red flags that you have. Everyone has red flags. Every company has red flags. Allows you to see the green flags you have. And more importantly, it allows you to see the needs that you have. So that when you're building that list of venture capitalists or angel investors, you can look for not just their capital, but what doors can they open? What investment can they make that's not capital? Because like you said earlier, oftentimes that is a lot more valuable than capital that is invested in your company.
Right.
So I think really those 2 things, and then revenue. Nothing speaks to traction more than revenue.
Right.
And that allows you as well to approach the venture capital table with some leverage, and say, hey, there's nothing more attractive, I think, to an investor than to say, we don't need your money, but we're looking for an investor to be strategic and to help us scale.
Right.
But we're cash flow positive.
Right.
And we can keep building. It's going to be maybe a little slower, but we're looking for your capital to accelerate rather than pay for payroll.
Exactly. Yeah. Cover your costs. And know your numbers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen that HBO show called Silicon Valley?
I have.
There's one scene where one of their early angel investors, they were talking about doing some advertising to start making money to become cash flow positive. He's like, no. It's like, we don't make money. We don't trying to raise more money in the future at a higher valuation. It does seem that when you get sucked into this industry, depending upon who you partner with, one investor will invest at a certain valuation, and then they'll talk to their buddy and like, oh my God, you should get in this company. And we're doing this and I helped them get this far now. And then the valuation will pop up and then they'll start taking some off the table. And then it's sort of like passing the hot potato.
Yeah.
And the valuation just gets tossed up and up, not because the company's doing great, or it's just the investors are looking to exit. Right. Like, you do this for me, I'll do it for you in the future. I'm not saying that happens, but it sure seems that way. So what about those looking to break into the venture capital world?
Honestly, I think I got lucky. It's right place, right time. I'm a very non-traditional path into venture capital. I was in Catholic seminary and then law school, business school, startup. And then it was timing for me as well. I think getting experience, a lot of venture firms have these scout programs where you can build a relationship with them, show them that you're bringing good deals to the table, and maybe get on board with them that way. You can do a startup and
right.
And there's nothing, there's no better experience or way to learn than to just do it and then maybe jump board. But yeah, it's a weird industry and how to break in because there's not very many.
Right.
And I think in the last 2 years, 3,000 firms across the country have shut down.
Yeah.
And so it's getting smaller and tighter and harder to break into.
Right.
I'm very persistent. And so I would say just continue being persistent.
Yeah.
And find a niche as well, that whether it's an expertise in a particular type of technology that you're looking to. I lean heavily on being an attorney as well. I can help on the legal aspects without having to pay
good partner to have.
Outside counsel.
Yeah. Can you look at this agreement? Let me know what you think.
Yeah. And so finding that niche for yourself, and it's your passion as well.
Right.
You want to do something that you love. This has been one of the favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Is be in this space and work with founders.
Yeah, that's great. Sometimes I'll get emails asking to be like an admin or an intern.
Yep.
No, not paid, just learning, just kind of break in. I know Blue Venture does that with Georgetown students. They'll bring in 3 or 4 every year. But I also tell folks to start investing yourself as an angel investor. Whether it be 5,000, 10,000, but join in a local angel investing group, go to meetups like Jim Roberts' group here in Wilmington is awesome. You can learn how to do pitching. You can learn who the founders are, what capital they're looking for, who the capital providers are, and how they do business, and kind of just work yourself in from that angle.
Build your own little portfolio.
Yeah. Small but steady.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. So looking ahead, what's the future for Idea Fund? Do you believe more funds?
Hopefully lots of big
5,
exits.
6, 7. Have you had any exits?
We have, yeah. We've had, I want to say maybe 15 exits over the 4 funds.
What's your largest on a multiple?
That's a great question. We're waiting for Pendo right now to IPO.
Right.
They're in Fund 3. And I think about every firm in
North Carolina
is waiting for Pendo. They'll return the fund and more.
Yeah.
Which we're excited about.
I did write to CEO one time.
Yeah.
He never wrote me back. He started thinking, who the hell is this guy?
Well, hopefully big exits. I'm excited about a lot of the portcos, and they're very promising, especially in Fund 4. That's the one I'm most involved in. And I most likely another fund.
Do you see any challenges with return of capital? Because I know as a limited partner, a lot of the expectations sometimes is like 3 to 5 years, typically is to get your return of capital in something. So that way you can reinvest it in something else and compound that. What is your typical time frame on return of capital?
Yeah, so we try and approach it conservatively with our LPs. We say the first 5 years of our fund cycle is typically for us 10 maybe, hopefully not, but sometimes 12 years.
Yeah.
But the first 5 years, we're deploying capital. We're currently in Fund 3, still deploying. And then from year 6 to 10, we start harvesting that capital.
Okay.
If we have an exit before that time, what we typically do is recycle it.
Yeah.
To increase the size of the fund and get into another company. But it's typically that's 6 to 10 year window.
6 to 10. Yeah. Do your LPs, that's kind of the expectation they have is 6 to 10.
Yeah. Closer to the 10.
Got it.
Especially right now.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm involved in a few funds and a lot of the LPs are screaming because they're like, I need a return of capital. You know?
Yeah. So it's like
because you get locked up.
Right.
It's not like putting your money in Google or Microsoft, where you can just go to the market and sell if you need to buy a car or buy a house or whatever. You know, when you have expenses, you look at certain private equity, real estate, public markets, and that money's locked up. You know?
And it's kind of rocking a hard place for the venture capitalists as well, because you want to raise another fund as well.
Yeah.
But if you're not giving your capital back to your LPs, then you have to find new ones, and it's a challenging place to be.
Can you mention your fee schedule? Are you 2 and 20?
2 and 20.
2 and 20. And that's another problem, is that sometimes the LPs, because you're taking 2%.
Right.
You know, so the longer in duration of your return of capital, you're lower your IRR marks.
Right.
So that way, when you do raise a fund in the future, they look at the industry standards like, why did you only return 25% IRR? You know, it's like, well, it took us 12 years. It's like, but you know, if you sold in 6 years, it'd have been like 45 or 60% IRR. Like, yeah, but you know, it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So that, I think there's a dichotomy there also.
For sure.
And try to be creative. And looking at raising a fund for Cape Fear, I'm looking at different models where we have no fees, like a shared fee model. You know, Blue Venture has something very similar where you put your money in, but there's a required minimum we have to deploy per year. You know, it's like, for example, you either can raise capital, committed capital, and then whatever the fund invests, they'll do capital calls.
Right.
And you're married to their investment strategy. Whereas some, you can kind of have a hand and say, okay, we have this company, SkillMaker.
Yep.
You know, we're going to put, you know, $200K of the fund, and we're going to do a $500K sidecar.
Right.
And if you want to, you know, and I've had one, Lavrock Ventures out of Virginia, which you'd love, Steve Smoot, you know, another guy I introduced you to, but they do sidecars, and like every deal they have a sidecar, I double down. You know, so then there's an exit, but then it's like you get,
right.
You know, and by the first exit, I already paid myself back for what I had in the fund beginning. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and that's similar to Idea Fund. So when we invest, at least in North Carolina and Virginia, we typically invest out of three vehicles.
Right. Yeah.
The state vehicle, where they're essentially the only LP.
Yeah. Our
general fund, and then we call it a co-investment fund.
Yeah.
So these are LPs that can double down on their investment, or non-LPs that pay an annual like membership fee.
Yeah.
And they typically end up about doubling the size of our investment.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, because it gives you a bigger foothold into the company, which more powder, more chances of success.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great. I appreciate it. So for founders looking for your information, how can they submit their information to you?
Yeah, they can email me, Juan Carlos at ideafundpartners.com. Also connecting on LinkedIn as well works. Juan Carlos Pacheco, Idea Fund Partners.
And we'll have your information in the podcast info so people can hit it as well. But no, this has been awesome.
Yeah, this has been great, Richard. Thanks for having me
I really
on.
appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And getting to know you better.
Yeah, excited for the SkillMaker run together.
Let's do it. I'm excited. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amplified CEO is produced by Topsail Insider, edited by Jim Mendes-Pouget, and sponsored by Cape Fear Ventures. For more information about Amplified CEO, Richard Stroupe, or Cape Fear Ventures, please contact Christa at 910-800-6500. 0111 or Christa at topsailinsider.com.